Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And it is once again time to rank the new meta characters. This time we've got the Primal Demons, we also have the Octagram characters, and the 3 skill fusions that came with them. So we have quite a bit of work to do alongside all of it. Just wanted to note first off that I did make a few changes already. I took out most of the old 5-star characters from the A tier, dropped them down into B tier. We're over a year into EX metas now. None of the old 5-star characters can really hold a candle to them and their power at this point. There are a few skill fusion units that can still be decent, but apart from that, most of the other 5-star characters are just, they can be helpful. They're not, truly an optimized unit at this point. So I did move, all like Milim, Xion, Shinsha, Violet, all these characters got dropped down, which I think is fair, at this point in the game. But we have a lot of work to do. We're going to save this for last. Let's go with the free-to-play units first. Misery is another unfortunate character that has been trending in the wrong direction with their latest batch of characters where they need to be run on a specific team, right? Misery, her 2 skills are locked to Primal Demons. If you try and take her on a not Primal Demon team and she's the only one, it ain't gonna work, right? She only changes Primal Demon alt. She only changes Primal Demon oranges to blues. So if she is not on a Primal Demon team, she is actually useless. And that's kind of what they did with Diablo, where New Year's Blessing orbs get the gauge increase, and he gives away 3 New Year's Blessings orbs, so you have to be on a New Year's team. Nabe, a little bit more generic because one skill is actually fine, but the other skill is Stern of Spirit. Gobta was really good because all he did was change 2 greens to 2 blues and an alt swap. He doesn't care who you are. That Gobta is a good unit. Try is a good unit. These characters are not what I want to see. I want to use free-to-play characters on other teams to make them moderately viable. And if they're locked to one team and you don't have that team, you're kind of SOL. And I don't think that's what free-to-play characters necessarily should do. They should be able to bring value to all players because they're free. And if you want like super powerful limited time buffs, then you fucking summon for these guys, right? I think we should retrend towards the hyper generic free to play units that you can put on other teams. That way you can have value, and you need a filler unit. You need an orb changer. Gobta's gotcha. Reamer's gotcha. Geld's got you. You need an orb changer on a Primal Demon team? Misery has you. If it ain't Primal Demon or it ain't New Year's Blessing, sorry, pick someone else. So she goes in C tier with the other 2 hyper limited characters. It's pretty unfortunate. Also, I really don't like her on this team. This stacking team with a single alt swapper. Like, yeah, it's cool, you can use it a bunch of times, but eventually it's going to cost 100 points for a single alt swap, and that is just unacceptable. Protectors. Violet. The whole gimmick of, hey, I can use skills an unlimited number of times is really a facade. It's not actually true because there are still skill point limitations. And on a team where you're using a single alt swap that costs 100 points, you're using Diablo's alt swap or orb change and Misery's orb change, and they all cost 100 points, and you only have 300 points to use, well, you're SOL because you can't use anything else. So I think Violet's whole gimmick of unlimited skill usage is kind of a fraud. She is still a generic stacking protector for Primal Demons. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. But really, she's only here to make the new Blanc look good. Anybody else, you'll have more luck running under probably fucking Diablo or something, or Rimuru, Konosuba Rimuru. I'm not really a big fan of Violet's protection skill. And Rain being just the mini version of her, I think it puts her down into C tier as well. She is a fairly solid, just generic stacking protector for free to play units who need it. Primal Demon and Stern of Spirit though are not teams that A, get buffed very often, and B, have a lot of units to begin with. We'll get more Primal Demons in the future, sure, they're popular, but Stern of Spirit, that's such a wonky specific category, it doesn't get updated too often with good units, so she's not really going to get much play either. So Violet, A tier, along with all these other protectors. Maybe Hakuro and Toa drop down, so does Space Voldora, so does Space Milim. Probably, yeah. We'll just drop everyone down that's not EX into B tier at this point. I really don't like Trainee. That's why she's over here too. But yeah, I think this is fair. I think the only one that really deserves to be up here still is Light Shuna, because she's double stacking. But, alright, so there's those changes. Now let's move on. Let's get the easy ones out of the way. The two Diablos are not a lot changed to make them any better. I still think they're pretty meh giveaway units. They are slightly better, but not enough to bump them up a tier, especially when you need them level 100. So they just kind of chill. Rain, skill-fused Rain, you know, she used to hurt herself, and now she gives herself guaranteed crits, which I think does deserve to bump her up into a higher tier, because she's an AoE space unit, and, you know, we have a few of those. But she's now viable, and she doesn't hurt herself anymore. So it's good for a 1-tier jump. The Octagram characters. Let's start off with the elephant in the room. Lumi. She got the nerf, right? Everybody's unhappy about that. She's still a good character. She's still a good character. And now she's a little bit better, because now her AoE buff, you know, even if it's only 30% now, it is for any AoE character, instead of being pretty much just for Diablo, right? Or just for bitch-ass Albedo, wherever she is, all the way down here somewhere. So now she is objectively a better character, right? She still has the permanent alt buff for 60 to 80%. Anyone can benefit from that. And now she's good on most teams, you know, because most teams are either AoE or single target. And if you're an AoE team and you need a very good generic buffer, Lumi will do that. So I believe that does reward her by bumping her up a tier. Guy, they made his orb change actually worse. It used to be just changes 3 greens to 3 oranges, and now it's 3 something. I actually don't know what it does. I can't remember. 3. Oh, no, it changes all fire orbs, which I have a video either going out or it's already out using him in Valor Cup. You are locked to using, at minimum, 2 other fire units. I don't think that changes his value at all. He's still used for his stun. That is his primary reason to exist, is to stun. And he's already up in SS because of the stun. He's not up here, though, with that skill fusion. He's just kind of floating around. Romaris, her skill also did get better, right? You got extra defense on it now. You don't use Romaris a lot. You don't need such big-time healing, and there are other units that have defensive skills for much cheaper, right? So I don't think she really improved too much to go up a tier level. Milim didn't go up at all. They gave her an extra, 35% Pierce power, and Pierce is objectively the worst of the 3 main buffs, being crit, synergy, and Pierce now. It was not enough. So wherever Milim is right now, she's going to remain as soon as I find her. There she is. All right, she's up there. So I don't think she bumped up any higher either. Leon, I think he was already up a tier above because of his single target alt skill. His second skill fusion made his skill fusion worse, because now it's Heart of a Hero orbs, and that category is ass. So he's going to remain in his single tier above his old version, just because he is objectively better than his non-skill fused. Only by a little bit, though. Dino, I'm on the fence. Haven't used him. He's good for defense-oriented teams, right? His second skill fusion gave him the guaranteed guard and the lowering of alt gauge, which sounds cool on paper. I haven't had a chance to use him. I might do a showcase using one of my mods accounts. He says that he's good, so I will cautiously rank him 1 tier higher right now until I can actually see him in game and I can, you know, kind of use him and see how well he performs. I'll give him a 1 tier jump for now. Next month, after I get that done, I might move him around depending on how I feel about it. And then Octagram Daggerel. Daggerel is at the bottom of the barrel. His non-skill fuse version for anything is absolutely garbage, because he cuts his defense down and he cuts his HP down. This skill fuse Daggerel does not have that issue, right? He's now giving himself pretty good buffs. He's giving himself alt gauge. He's healing himself. He's giving himself weakness strike. He's an Earth AoE character, which we only have very, very few of those to begin with. And I have done a showcase for him. Again, I don't know if it's up yet or not, but I am actually going to bump him up quite a few tiers because he's actually now a viable character, that he doesn't hurt himself, and he can be an AoE Earth DPS character. So a 1, 2, 3, a 4-tier jump for Octagram Daggerel from bottom of the barrel crap to can be helpful is true, because he can be helpful now if he is skill fused. If he is skill fused, though, that's the kicker. So those are the old units. Let's move on to the new characters, and I'm just gonna cut it out real fast. They all go into A tier. They're all decent, but limited, and I am very, very not thrilled that they're not higher. Diablo, for his orb change, is really cool, right? Changes all greens to blues, and you can use it on any team. That is awesome. His second skill, 100% physical buff and guaranteed pierce. The physical buff is limited to Commander and Primal Demon. Commander, not a very good team. Also, it's a physical buff, which means that team is now cut in half, because some of them are magic, some of them are physical. It only applies to physical characters because it's a physical buff. So, limited team usage, physical buff, it means that he's not going to be used everywhere. His guaranteed pierce is shit by itself. You need other things to make pierce even remotely look good. So, what makes Fount of Wisdom Rimuru so good is that it's just everybody gets a 65% physical buff. So he's generic, right? He's got a generic orb change, he's got a generic buff. Diablo has a generic orb change and a very limited buff. It's stronger, yes, that's cool, but you can't use it everywhere you want. So he's decent but limited. Blanc is, the DPS character of the single target DPS of the meta, right? And it's the same for pretty much all single target DPSs. They look really good on their own and with a bunch of support. Apart from that, they don't have a lot of usage, because I'm not going to bring this Blanc on, let's say, a Konosuba team if I have Ainz. Because what is Blanc going to do for Ainz? Yeah, get a little bit of extra alt gauge and a little bit of extra alt damage, but I would just bring a totally different buffing unit for that aspect then. I'm not going to bring you specifically for that reason. And I'm also not going to try and nuke with you if I'm trying to nuke with Ainz. Like, that's the reason why I brought that team. So, her value, as with most other DPS characters, will fall off very, very quickly, because they generally don't bring too much to the rest of the team or other teams in the future to remain viable, except in the niche times that you do need to use Blanc as your single target nuker, using the Primal Demon team for some Jubilee stage or something. So it's the problem that the game has. Support units always last longer than DPS characters, and that's because they can support other things, unless they are hyper limited, like Diablo. And then Jaune, unfortunately, is just not as good as what she looked like on paper. Her big time buff, the 100% element resistance down and the 100% weakness strike, these are both not very strong buffs on their own, and combining them makes an okay buff that is easily overshadowed by Shizu, right? Her weakness strike and her 50% alt resistance down is many, many, many times stronger than Jaune's buff, even though it looks stronger because it's got 200% versus a 100 and then a 50%er. So that's already unfortunate. Her second skill, the 100, the skill reset essentially, down to 0, is cool for Blanc. That's about it. And then on turn 8, you get those extra 300 skill points. That is cool. Only for Blanc. You're not really going to use that skill on any other team. Even another blue stacking team. I'm not swapping you out for another character that would bring me more damage and maybe orb changing. I'm not going to bring you for a skill reset and then 300 extra skill points on turn 8 when I don't need 300 skill points, right? I don't need that on not the Primal, but I don't need that on the Overlord team. I don't need that on New Year's Blessing because of the Burst team, and I don't have 80 points to begin with. I'm not going to use it on the Vengeance team. I'm not going to use it on the Konosuba team because we don't need 300 points. I don't need to reset everything down. It's fine. So she's just not very good overall, I think. But I don't think she's bad enough to drop into B tier. She may drop down in the future depending on how I feel about it, and see how much actual usage I can get out of her in a couple more metas. But apart from that, they're all just kind of meh. They're all kind of meh. None of them are super good. None of them, I would say, are great on most teams. Certainly not godly level. But I think they are good for themselves and because they are limited, which is the definition of the category itself. But let me know what you guys think of these rankings. Do you think I am being a bit too harsh to these 3 Primal Demons? Do you think the new skill fusions for the Octagram characters are right? Let me know in the comments. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.